Yo, what's going on, guys? Hopefully, everybody's having a good Tuesday evening. Well, at least it's Tuesday over here at the coast, which is the West Coast, and everybody knows that's the best coast. Look, man, when I look at Brian Mendoza, right? If there was ever an underdog tale, right, on that's been doing it on a, I guess, consistent basis, or at least in his last two outings, right? That would be that would be Brian Mendoza, right? He's relished in that underdog role. If you ask him, he's like, nah, I'm supposed to be here. You guys don't see how hard I train. You guys don't see how studious I am and, the rigors of training that I go through with Ismael Salas to prepare myself. So if you ask him, he's like, based on my training and experience and my work ethic, I deserve and belong here, right? People outside people on the outskirts of town, they would be like, man, Brian is an underdog. He wasn't supposed to beat Jason Rosario, let alone knock him out. He wasn't supposed to beat, let alone knock out Sebastian Fundora. Hell, when they fought earlier this year, he was a plus 850 underdog. Probably add another 500 to that if you had him winning by KO. When you look at Brian Mendoza, the dude is strong. The dude is shredded. He's a guy that knows boxing. I mean, hell, he has a 73% knockout ratio. Now, when Tim Tszyu fought Carlos Ocampo and he was looking for that Mexican war, well, I knew he wasn't going to get it with Ocampo, right? But he might get that fight with Brian Mendoza. Now, that is not to say that Brian Mendoza is going to defeat Tim Tszyu, but I am going to say that he's going to go out there and give Tim Tszyu a good fucking fight, a better fight than what Tony Harrison was able to give Tim Tszyu, a much better, tougher fight that is going to go past the first round in Carlos Ocampo. When Tim Tszyu was looking for that knockout, or when Tim Tszyu was looking for that Mexican, standoff and war, he's going to get it with Brian Mendoza, because Ismael Salas, he's not about to throw in the towel for his fighters. That's just not what Ismael Salas does. Okay? That's not who he is in his nature. So I know for a fact that Brian Mendoza is coming here to bring it. Now, as I watch in the background here, the rerun, right, the fight of Sebastian Fundora against Brian Mendoza, I didn't really like the game plan from Brian Mendoza. I guess in the early portions of the fight and the early portions of the rounds, he was fighting at a distance that really wasn't tailored to him. You have to fight Sebastian Fundora on the inside. That dude is like 6'7", right? Pretty much all bone. Those are strong bones, by the way. But I don't understand why he was trying to fight on the outside, right? He probably realized that Sebastian is very strong on the inside, and his favorite punches really isn't the jab or the 1-2. It's all those uppercuts that he likes to throw from both punches. So Brian Mendoza probably wanted to keep it at bay. And little did we know, he had been looking for that left hook the whole fucking fight ever since the beginning. He kept throwing that check left hook. And as we know, that's eventually the punch that landed on Sebastian Fundora. And that was a punch that essentially sat his ass down, right? And then he finished it up with a 4. And it's pretty much all she wrote. So Brian Mendoza, he knows boxing. Now, unfortunately, at least the way I see it, Tim Tszyu has been making vast improvements. At least that's what I saw against Tony Harrison, right? Because when I first saw Tim Tszyu against Terrell Gausha, I was not impressed. I saw a dude that was very stiff, non-relaxed. I saw a guy that was telegraphed, heavy-handed, and very strong, but very stiff, right? It was just a guy that I can almost say that in the Terrell Gausha fight, he was basically living off the fame of his father's name, right? But this Tim Tszyu of late, especially the one that I saw against Tony Harrison, I'm a believer of Tim. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tim is the best 154 pounder. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tim Tszyu is going to beat and knock out Jermell Charlo. I don't think so. But if he's looking for a fight, a Mexican war with Brian Mendoza, I think he's going to get it. If he were to fight Brian Castaño, he would also get another war. This is a good fucking fight this Saturday. All right. And then Tim, he might win. He most likely will win. I mean, he's favored to win. He's fighting in his hometown. So the odds are stacked once again against Brian Mendoza. But he's able to do it against Jason Rosario. And he was able to do it once again against Sebastian Fundora. So if there was ever an underdog that has a lot of momentum, it's Brian Mendoza. Okay. Now, for those that are betting people, what's going on, David? What network? I believe, brother, I think it's going to be on Showtime. I think it's going to be on Showtime. Not Showtime pay-per-view, just Showtime network. But that's usually where Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza have been fighting their last couple of fights. So I can only imagine it'll be there. The only difference is I'm not too sure how many hours ahead Australia is. So it might be like at 4 a.m. I actually got to check that out. Let's see. Brian Mendoza versus Tim. So he's going to be fighting in Australia. Let's see what time the fights are going to be streamed. It's October 14th, which is this Saturday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I think they'll be showing it in at regular time here, 7:30 p.m. So over there in Australia, it might be like 3 p.m. or I'm not even too sure how many hours ahead they are, but that's where usually they'll be, brother. So yeah, stay tuned, man. It's gonna be a good fight. Well, at least I'm expecting a very good fight. I think Tim Tszyu will get it. He looks to be sturdy, but Brian Mendoza, he's crafty, man. And again, he's got a very good trainer, and Ismael Salas, who, even though he's a very good trainer, like Derrick James, this year has not been their year. Yordenis Ugas just got beat and was on the losing end against the underdog in Mario Barrios. There was another fight that Ismael Salas just recently lost. The Joe Joyce fight where Zhilei Zhang just knocked him out. So he's a little bit on the losing end so far in his last couple, like in terms of the big profile fights. So again, I don't want to shit on Brian Mendoza because I like the kid and I'll be rooting for him because, again, man, I just like the story of underdogs. And yeah, man, he's making a little name for himself, and I just hope that momentum keeps on going because it's deserving. And now I'm not saying Tim Tszyu is not deserving of a belt, but there's a lot of politics that are favoring Tim Tszyu. He's got the Australia backing. He's already selling pay-per-view fights over there by essentially fighting nobodies. If there was ever that momentum of a kid having a silver spoon and politics wanting to, and forcing him to be a champion, I mean, bro, they stripped Jermell Charlo coming off hand surgery, right? They stripped him to essentially give Tim Tszyu a chance to win a vacated belt. I mean, if there is any fuckery in the sport of boxing, I mean, his name is Tim Tszyu. You see what I'm saying? Because you guys gotta understand this. To be undisputed, it's a very difficult thing to do in boxing. Look, it essentially took Jermell Charlo 10 years to become undisputed. And just like that, the WBO strips him. They don't respect him. And they gave that vacated belt to Tim Tszyu, essentially. It took one fighter 10 years to become undisputed. And just like that, they stripped him and gave it to Tim Tszyu. That's insane. They did the same thing to Josh Taylor, too. He became undisputed. He went on an incredible run of fighting like 5 amazing fighters, right? Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, Ivan Baranchenko. The totality, the sum of all those fighters' victories was like 166 wins to 1 loss. And after the Jack Catterall fight, right? I think he ended up having surgery as well. They stripped him of all his titles so they can give it to Rolly Romero and rob a 40-year-old Ismael Barroso. That's essentially what they did to Jermell Charlo. Now, Jermell went on to have, I guess you can call it a voluntary defense or just a voluntary fight against Canelo Alvarez, which he looked horrible, right? But that was to solidify not his legacy, but to solidify his pockets, because he had been fighting his mandatories in Brian Castano and Tony Harrison and unifying versus with Jason Rosario. He had been fighting and defending his status. And just like that, bro, they didn't even give him a voluntary and just be like, you know what, Jermell, you've been paying all your sanctioning fees. And guess what? Let's strip you of a title. We're not going to give you that payday and that status by losing to Canelo Alvarez. That's crazy to me. Like, to me, like, if I was Jermell Charlo, if I was Teofimo Lopez, when the WBC tried to give Lomachenko a franchise belt, it's like, what am I paying these sanctioning fees for? Why are you getting a cut of the 3% if you're instantly going to strip my status away? I'm going to sue you. If I'm Jermell Charlo, I'm suing the WBO. If I'm Teofimo Lopez, people don't call me undisputed because you created a franchise belt. I am going to sue the WBC. If I'm Josh Taylor, I'm suing all those sanctioning bodies except the WBO. I think he kept that belt after Jack Catterall. Because that's crazy. There has to be a sanctioning agreement. When I become undisputed, I should not have, as the face of the division, 4 mandatories. I should not have to fight all 4 fighters. Those 4 fighters, there should be a tournament where the last man standing gets to fight me because I have all the grapes on the sinking boat. That's the way I look at it. Now, I could be wrong, but let me put all that politics and nonsense away because none of that really matters, right? What matters is this Saturday. What matters is Brian Mendoza, is he going to continue to shock the world and upset the boxing world as what we think fit, right? Because Tim Tszyu, he's a star in Australia. He's got a whole lot of momentum. He's selling out stadiums. Again, he's landing on pay-per-view. And essentially, he ain't really beat nobody, right? He got a little charisma to himself, when he says, "What's my motherfucking name?" He's got some charisma. He's got some skill, and he's only getting better. So I see the improvements. And in fact, in his last outing, not against Ocampo, but Tony Harrison, I saw a lot. Like, I feel like he's studying Canelo Alvarez because he knew I'm not going to jab with Tony Harrison. Every time he throws a jab, I'm going to meet him with a powerful shot, a left, a 4, an uppercut, a 7, a 6. It was gorgeous. The way he broke down Tony Harrison, it looked like he was levels above Tony. Man, that's going to be an incredible fight. At least I hope so. Again, for people that like to bet, it's going to be a very interesting time. But, excuse me. Let's check it out. Let's check out if they relinquished the undercard already. And let's see. Oh, boxing. Okay, so these are fights in Canada. Eric Bazinian versus Ronald Ellis. That's on the 11th. I said this fight was happening on the 14th. All right. That might be Keyshawn Davis's undercard. Duke Regan versus Jose Perez. Richard Torres. Now, this is all ESPN bouts. Excuse me. Miguel Berchelt versus Diego Alberto Ruiz. Is that the co-main event? Or is that on DAZN? Zanivek Alim Kanuli. Huh. Interesting. Let's see. We have Sam Goodman versus Miguel Flores. Why does Sam Goodman sound familiar? Is that the guy that beat Alim? Let's see. Sam Goodman will be on the undercard, and that is the fighter that beat Ra'is Alim. Yeah, I remember that fight. I won money on that fight. He's fighting Miguel Flores. So I'm guessing that'll be the co-main event. And May Nathaniel versus Jackson John England. That's a fucking dope-ass name. Jackson John England? Sheesh! That's amazing. You have Sergey Vorobiev versus Wade Ryan. Wade Ryan. That sounds like Saving Private Ryan. That's amazing. Miguel Flores, 25-4 with one KO, with one draw, three by KO. He lost to Eduardo Ramirez, Leo Santa Cruz, and Chris Avalos. Oh, this is the fighter that just had a draw versus Abner Mares. Abner Mares fight a detached ren. He's fighting Sam Goodman. Sam Goodman should win that one. Yeah, he's favored to. Yo, man, it's not a bad night of boxing right here. There is a whole lot of things going on in the sport of boxing. Wow. So you have fights in Australia, which most likely be televised by Showtime. You have ESPN bouts with Zani Bick, Alim Kanuli. Then you also have Richard Torres fighting. You have Keyshawn Davis fighting. It looks like at different venues. Wow. It's a nasty triple header. That is a nasty triple header. Vincenzo Gualtieri. Huh. Italian. Yeah, man, we got some pretty good night of boxing this Saturday. And then on the 11th, which is, I don't know, tomorrow? Wait, or is that tonight? Today's the 10-10. So tomorrow, you have Ronald Ellis fighting Eric Bazinian. And I think Eric Bazinian is from Canada. Eric, let me see. That might be an upset, guys. Ronald Ellis, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the main sparring partners for Canelo Alvarez. And he's fighting Eric Bazinian, who's 30-0 with 21 KOs from Canada, Quebec, Canada. Wow. This is Eric Bazinian's, I guess you can, oh no, it's not his first test because he also fought Marcelo Coceres, who was a guy who dropped Edgar Berlanga, and he fought Alantes Fox earlier this year in February, and he beat Jose de Jesus Macias. Yeah, I remember that one. Ronald Ellis has only lost 3 times, one to knockout to David Benavidez. He withstood the punishment of Christian Mbili, the Frenchman, who's a fucking tank at 168, and then he got beat by DeAndre Ware, majority decision. Yeah, man. How old are you? 33, and how old is Eric Bazinian? 28. I don't know. That'd be a good one. Plus 350, the odds. I don't think Ronald Ellis will knock him out, but he could win by decision. Plus 700. Okay. Shit. Look, man, I'm waiting for Warp Speed and possibly Drew to hop in because Warp wants to go ahead and talk about the news of the day. And, the little gremlin just popped up on the feed. Yo, what's going on, Speed? Real quick, mic check. And if your mic is working, how you been, man? How's your day going?
Well, how's it sound, homie Ricky? Mic check 1 2 1 2. How am I coming through?
Yeah, man, it sounds loud and clear.
As always, I expect to sound loud and clear and enunciate and pronounce the words correctly this time. So hopefully I'll be able to say Ramirez correctly. Hopefully I'll be able to say Hernandez correctly. But nonetheless, thank you very much, the homie Ricky, for this invite. Always an honor. Really, I almost feel like a privilege because sometimes I think you don't need a co-host, right? You're very astute, very about the sport, about a lot of sports, about a lot of things. In fact, you're very good at making your points across. You elucidate well. You know how to keep your mind focused on what it is that you want to do, and you're very adept at supporting it with examples and history. And there's just so much that I think, man, I'm just like a wooden leg. I'm just like a peg. You don't necessarily need me, right? But because I am here, I try to match your energy and your knowledge. And if I can't, well, at least I'll ask you questions. And at most, you'll get a lot of disagreement from me just to throw you off your game. But, I just wanted to say it's always a pleasure, and thank you very much for for inviting me again. So I love your cook. I love how you start off these shows, and I think a lot of what you stated about the topic of the day, which is Mendoza, if he can upset Tim Sue, and you said some things there that, as harsh as they sound, for the most part, they are true. Um, Tim Sue, the one of the progeny, because if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Costasu, the legendary fighter, uh, has three children. Two that I know box. One is of course Tim, and then there is Nikita, the underappreciated and more easily ignored one of the bunch. But nonetheless, we have in Tim Sue a fighter that, like you elucidated, is a person that's been getting a lot of breaks. Um, the fans have just gravitated towards him. He's had a lot of chances that perhaps not a lot of other fighters would get had his father not been a legendary fighter, one of my favorites when I was coming up as a kid, and Costa. Now, there was some things that I found disparaging of the man, that I disagreed with, and I just wanted to tell you that I have some contention with some of the things that you said about that fella. What do you think about that? What do you think about me having contention with some of your opinions about young Tim Sue?
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we're here for. We're here to hash it out. That's the more the merrier, man. I'm not trying to have people just come here to agree with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, well, so here's the thing that I wanted to tell you, right? That I disagree with. You said that Tim Sue has been on the Australian pay-per-view, essentially fighting nobodies. Can you give me an example of a nobody that he sold pay-per-views for or filled out arenas for? Somebody that perhaps at the experience level of Tim was not competitive enough, or he shouldn't have been there, or it was a soft touch. Can you give me just like an example? Because what we see in Tim Sue, right, is that, to me at least, he came out of the blue, right? He once I heard the name Sue, I knew he was his son. When I looked at him, yeah, there is some resemblance to his father, the nose, the brow. So it just clicked. Okay, this is the child of one of my favorite fighters when I was younger. Um, but contrary to what a lot of other children of boxers uh, have achieved in the sport, this guy is actually doing the most. Right? We have Shane Mosley Jr., the son of the legendary Sugar Shane Mosley from Pomona,
Sugar
California.
Shane.
Sugar Shane, he's a great fighter. He's very good. He's had his up and downs. He learns. He's a great fighter. He goes in there and gives it 100%. But he's never been able to achieve the level of greatness that his father has, not a tenth of it, right? And even though he's with the right promotion, and Golden Boy Promotions, very close friends of between Shane and Oscar De La Hoya. We have let's see who else. We've had Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the son of a legendary fighter. And if we go through some of the names on that guy's record, because he had a bunch of fights, he had a bunch of fights as much as Canelo, if I'm not mistaken, you might not recognize a lot of those names. And then in the biggest of moments, he's faltered. He's come out short. He's been undedicated. He never lived up to the hype nor the greatness of his father, right? Um, and then we have somebody like Tim Sue, who and Tim Sue, he's never lived under the shadow of Tim Sue. Tim Sue has never lived under the shadow of Costa Sue. He's never bragged about being his son. In fact, they don't have the closest of relationship. Mr. The elder Sue lives in Russia, if I'm not mistaken. The younger Sue, the junior, I mean Tim, is not even a junior. He's a Tim. He lives in Australia. Whenever they promote him, they don't say the son of a legend. They say Tim Sue. And he's taken on some good fights of late. He's, I think he's deserving of the right to be recognized as a legitimate 154 pounder because Jermel Charlo ducked that smoke and he decided to duck Tim Sue, act like his hand was hurt, but all of a sudden his hand was perfectly okay when he was going to get paid 15, $20 million to fight a guy 2 weight classes above him for a cash grab. Now, I think if Jermel Charlo had had an opportunity to fight Tim Sue, Charlo would have been doing the right thing by at least defending his undisputed status with the number one contender. And I believe the sanctioning bodies that stripped Charlo for to give the belt to Tim Sue did the right thing because they saw the play. They saw that it was a cash grab. They saw that he did not belong there. He did not need to cut the line and just take this fight with this shoe and Hall of Famer and Saul Santos Alvarez Barragan. And the right thing is, if you decide to go up that much, you got to understand to come back down is going to be a hard task. I think they knew that he's probably not going to have an easy route back to 154. And I expect that some of the other sanctioning bodies, if it wasn't for the politics or the money, they may start taking away his remaining belts like they did to Josh Taylor when they know that he has other plans like fighting no names or getting married or just taking long vacations. I think the right thing is Sue should have been granted the belts because of the cowardice. I apologize, not cowardice, but because of the way that Jermel Charlo decided to walk away from his mandatory to fight for money.
Well, there was a lot of things that you said right there. So, first and foremost, going back to Tim and his father and the relationship of his father. Look, man, that's a great narrative to even sell to me. You see what I'm saying? That he's trying to make it as his own man, right? Because I think for the most part, to reinforce your point, yeah, he hasn't really been using, his last name. But don't matter if he hasn't been using his own last name to promote certain things. A lot of people love drama, right? So look no further like when Floyd Mayweather Sr. and Floyd Mayweather Jr., they had beef. And then there was like HBO had a camera right there and they released the footage where Mayweather, when Jr., he kicked out his father out of the gym. And then he was saying like, man, there was this, like, usually you have those things and those moments behind closed doors. But even then, you can see the hurt. You can see the hurt in Floyd Mayweather Jr. and his voice, almost like of a kid wanting the attention, wanting his father to be there. But, maybe his father said something. I would pop up the video right now and just so, I can rewatch that moment. But a
All
lot of
right.
that's good drama. That's good theater. You can sell that niche that, he's trying to be his own man and, there's a rocky relationship with his father. Maybe his father was abusive. Maybe he was a drunkard. Maybe, he was with multiple women and never really loved his mother. Maybe he's the bastard son or whatever the case may be. There's many narratives to sell. So whether we like it or not, like you said, his name is royalty. At least people know of the last name Sue. So the network deals like Showtime and all these things are going to gravitate towards because just simply by the last name. It's as if John F. Kennedy was my father and I was a Kennedy. Even if I don't want to, if I want to fly under the radar and let's say I want to get into the field of politics, not because I want to be the president, but I just, want to make a change or whatever the case may be, or if I was a police officer, whatever, people are going to find out Kennedy that's my bloodline. I'm a Kennedy. They're just going to put me to the forefront. So I don't really care about that aspect if Tim Sue tried to do it his own way, unless he changed his last name to Sue and he named himself Tim Gonzalez. then we would know nothing of him. It would almost be as if William Shakespeare, was Sir Lancelot or whatever the case may be, and he took an alias and, hey, I'm gonna tell you all these stories because if they find out it's me, they're gonna chop off my head. You get what I'm saying? So there's that aspect of it. So it's not like he's indirectly still using his fucking father's last name, Sue, as well as you should, because fuck it, why not? The other part, you said, what fights hasn't he had that either aren't deserving to be on pay-per-view? I forgot exactly what the word or the phrasing you used, but his recent one, Carlos Ocampo, that's a guy that's not on Tim Sue's level. He's coming off a few losses. And then not only coming off a few losses, how you going to sell that to your own Australian fan base on pay-per-view? That's insane to me. Like, you're trying to sell me that you're going to get into a Mexican fight because he gave Sebastian Fundora a good one. And, you bounce on low riders with switches and 1960 Impalas. And, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, even the Tony Harrison fight was probably a pay-per-view in Australia. And no disrespect to Tony Harrison, but we know he never beat Jermell Charlo once. Like, that was the wrong Charlo that got robbed that night because Matvey Korobov was the one that beat the older Jermell. Jermell never lost, like, in my opinion, only to Canelo. So there's those aspects that Tony Harrison isn't really on that level either because Jermell just knocked him out as well. So that's just like you talked about last night. It's just a reference point where, like, oh, Tim Tszyu did it this way. It took, basically 24 rounds or 2 fucking fights for Jermell to do what Tim Tszyu was able to do in essentially 5 or 6 rounds. So there's that aspect to it. So all those fights aren't deserving to be pay-per-view. As Americans that we complain that, PBC and Showtime give us fights that are over-marinated. I mean, imagine being Australian and, wanting to support Tim Tszyu, but you got to ship, I don't know, let's say the pay-per-view is $20, $50 to watch Tim Tszyu on pay-per-view. That's insane to me. Against non-champions. I mean, it's not even no titles on That's crazy.
Yeah, can you just can you bring up, is there a way for you to just run through Tim Tszyu's record, his names on the box rec? I just want to, like, cross-reference or acquaint myself a bit more with the names on his resume, because again, what I'm telling you about
order, but in terms of his last 4 fights, they're respectable names. His latest fight was Carlos Ocampo. The fight before that, it was Tony Harrison. The fight before Tony was Terrell Gausha. And then Takashi Inoue. If I'm not mistaken, that's that Japanese fighter that gave what's his name? I think it was Jaime Munguia a really good fight.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. And then he fought Steve Spark, Dennis Hogan, and then Jeff Horn, and then that's essentially it. I don't really know.
That's a lot of very good names, the homie Ricky.
It's not bad. It's not like
I'm trying to compare. Like, I mean, Brian Mendoza might have very similar names, like quality names like that. I don't know if they're that good. But I do know that if I'm not mistaken, Mendoza's coming off a hot one. I think he's coming off a good knockout streak. But Jeff Horn.
He's coming.
I think he retired, Jeff Horn.
I think so too. Or Jeff Horn just recently fought again and he just got beat. But yeah, no. To your point, it's a very good, like, it's a respectable resume. Like, it's an up and coming solid resume where he's passing his test. And same thing with Brian Mendoza. I'm not too sure like the order of operations of the fighters that he's fought, but it does consist of knocking out Jason Rosario. It does consist of beating an undefeated fighter and Tarantula Legs and Sebastian Fundora. He did lose to Jesus Ramos, who just got beat by Erickson Lubin on the co-main event of Canelo Alvarez.
That's so weird.
Opponents, it's respectable. Like, it's like, damn, bro, these guys are doing the groundwork. They're establishing themselves as top fighters at 154. I'm not here to be dismissive of all that. I mean, this is hard work.
And the other thing that we have to consider also, the homie Ricky, is this. Most of the names that I'm looking through here, they seem to be, like you said, maybe us, from, Europe or the land down under. He's got a couple of Latino sounding names. Like, there's Marcos Jesus Cornejo. Um, we got these names like Larry C. Wu that I have to be maybe African or something like that. But then once you start picking up to 2019, he's got a 19-1 with Dwight Ritchie, 16-2 with Jack Brubaker. Then he takes off Jeff Horn, 20-2. Uh, that's a very, very dangerous fight for that guy's resume at that moment, because now we're talking about a guy that's about 24 years of age at by the time that he fights Jeff Horn, um, who has a record of 20-2. So they're similarly matched, right? Around that time, you can say that Tim Tszyu has about 16 fights or so. And he hasn't fought those crazy former champions or gatekeeper names that prepare you for a former champion like Jeff Horn, who beat Manny Pacquiao. Whether you like it or not, he took that dub and he fights Jeff Horn 20-2 and retires him. I remember seeing that fight. I don't remember the outcome right now, but I think it was a very convincing fight for a win for Tim Tszyu, and I think that's where his star started to shine. He moves on from that to Bowen Morgan, who has a 21-1 record. Dennis Hogan, 28-3. We know that Dennis Hogan is a tested pugilist. He's a gatekeeper, so he's tested. Steve Spark, you know how tough that boy is. We know how what a hell of a fight he gave Montana Love. He frustrated him so much that Montana Love ended up closelining him and pushing, making him do a WWE move outside of the ring. He goes on and fights Takeshi Inoue, 17-1. Terrell Gausha, 22-2. Tony
Whoa,
Harrison,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
29-3.
Hold on. Steve Spark. Wait, isn't Montana Love a 140 fighter?
I believe so. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
140.
what I'm saying. Like, how does he fight Tim Tszyu at 154 and then go down all the way to 140? I mean, that talk about like being a weight bully, bro. Like, what?
Yeah, yeah. So that sounds like an easy touch,
That's crazy.
but yeah. But again, every fighter has a freebie. You know that fighter has a freebie. Every fighter even has a win that may have been a loss, right? For the most part, all the legends have a win that's likely a loss. Like a lot of the time, they say Canelo, his win loss was Erislandy Lara, or maybe the Triple G first fight, maybe even the second one. But what I'm saying is that, look, they're both from Australia. Australia does not have a very big, roster of fighters. So what you're also seeing, you have to consider, is that he's basically fighting people from his own country, which doesn't have a very great boxing history. Now, that means you're limited with the options and the level of competition. Then all of a sudden, you start pitting him against a nation of fighters like the United States of America, who does have well promoted names, who do have the financial reserves to be able to invest in nutrition and proper weight gain, muscle and whatnot, and he goes and excels at those fights. I think he had a hard one with Goucher. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got dropped. He overcame that, and then he ended up destroying Goucher. So what I'm
Yeah,
saying is that
it really wasn't a tough fight. I just felt like he got dropped once and then he just went on to dominate the whole fight. I don't really think it was that.
so I guess what I'm trying to say though, homie Ricky, is that considering that this guy has a limited access to great quality or great caliber of fighters, he's excelling once you start pitting him up against better names out there. And ain't no way in heck you're gonna tell me anybody most recently besides likely Jermel Charlo has had a harder 154 run in the past few years. You can't tell me that Brian Mendoza, Carlos Ocampo, Tony Harrison, Takeshi Inoue, Terrell Gausha, Steve Sparks, Dennis Hogan, that those names are not the second best after Charlo at 154. I think it's something commendable on that young man.
Yeah, no, man. Like I said, I am a fan of Tim Tszyu. Like that's not. I'm not.
Hmm.
I'm not here to bash the man. I am. I am a fan of him. You see, the 154 division looks promising because he's in the picture, right? I do
Yeah,
respect
I,
his skills.
I
I like
agree.
his skills. I do think that he will give Jamel Charlo, Brian, Castano, these other 154 pounders. Hell, he might just beat them. I know for sure he's going to give them a good run for their money for sure because I like his skills. He has the resources, he has the backing, he has the access to amazing trainers, strength and nutritionists, coaching. He's got probably access to great sparring as well because his last name holds weight. He is selling, pay-per-views and selling out stadiums when they pop fireworks. I mean, not a lot of fighters can do that here in the United States, and he's able to pull that off in Australia. So all credit to him. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to knock the hustle and knock. He's doing the things the proper way. I'm just saying, like, you know, there's a narrative to be sold by him and the people that are pushing his brand, and that's how it's supposed to be. But again, I just feel what it took one fighter 10 fucking years to do. This dude is winning belt unjustly. You see what I'm saying? It's as if Canelo got stripped because he wants to fight the fights that he's having, and they strip him of the WBC, and they give, David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade up, and they put the WBC belt up for grabs. When it's like, bro, do you not respect what Canelo did to Callum Smith, Rocky Fielding, Caleb Platt, John Ryder, all these other fighters, and you're gonna strip Canelo of one belt because he ain't fighting David Benavidez? Who has David Benavidez fought? You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Where I'm like, it warrants for Canelo to get stripped of one of the titles. Same thing with Jamel. It's like, yeah, I know he took a voluntary, but he just had a few voluntary defenses or unification matches with Brian Castano. It's like, does that not justify for me to have, like you said, a Steve Spark, a few easy touches? If it only took me fucking 10 years of my life to fight
yeah,
all these top fighters when basically Tim Tszyu has only had to do that for 4 times.
yeah. But the
So
thing is this, though,
that's
the
why
homie Ricky.
it's unjust. But,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
still
So
doing it the right way, but it's still unjust because, again, it took a fighter 10
I don't.
years to do
Yeah, but again, even that's another thing that I have disagreement with. Right? I don't find it something too controversial to have stripped a guy who took a year and a half to take his next fight. You see, that's the thing. I care about the circulation of the
It's called
belts.
injuries.
I
It's called injuries.
Okay, there you go. And so what happens when you're injured? You take recovery time, right?
Yeah.
When you're really injured and recovered, what do you usually do? You take a tune-up fight.
Yep.
And guess what Charlo did? He didn't take a tune-up fight. He didn't even take a tune-up fight at 154. He went 2 weight classes up to fight an undisputed, better tested fighter, and Canelo, for the money, because
But
there's no way you're gonna tell me, homie Ricky, that was not a money grab, because he didn't even fight for it. He
but
did
could
not
we
want to
say,
expose himself to harm because he wanted to make sure that he had a lasting career afterwards.
but could
So
we say that that fight that happened that transpired between Canelo and Jamel Charlo, that was a tune-up fight for Jamel?
no, no,
Because, like, could we not kid ourselves and we honestly say that that was nothing but a glorified sparring match with one good
yes,
shot where he
yes,
took a knee?
yes,
Okay, so it
yes,
was, I guess,
for him, for
no, no,
him.
it was a tune-up for Canelo, but it was basically, a very tough sparring session for Jamel because that
It's
was
only it's only look, it's only a tune-up, homie Ricky, for Canelo,
what's going on,
because
Adam. How are you?
Charlo did not decide to fight. You see what I'm saying? Because if Charlo came to fight, the kind of fighter that we know who he is, the guy who fought 3 out of 4 champs, to get to, we know that guy is a hellacious fighter. That guy has dog. All right, that guy has grit. That's not the guy we got. So if we call Canelo's side of his fight a sparring session, it's because Charlo did not engage. Now, for Charlo, it was more practice on defense. He was trying to prolong his career because he knew he was never gonna be competitive. As soon as he felt Canelo's power, he decided to almost give up the ghost. He definitely gave up his valor. He definitely gave up his credibility, and he decided that he was just gonna stay away from the danger and live to see another day because he needs another day to spend those millions that he robbed us from. Because that's the
Actually,
thing, though, homie Ricky. We
I saw
pay for
I
violence.
saw a different fight. I saw Jermel. His game plan obviously was to move laterally. You have to understand, bro. Jermel threw more punches than Canelo Alvarez.
Hmm.
The problem was his punches had no substance. It wasn't with intention, like to really hurt Canelo Alvarez, right? Because if you throw a loaded shot, Canelo might just parry and catch and shoot. So unless we're talking about the later rounds, I think it was like around 9, 10, or 11 or 12, around that time, Jamel was landing an amazing check left hook. And he was landing it on Canelo, like actually quite landing flush. Canelo would throw his looping forward to the bicep. Jamel would throw a left hook. And when it was catching Canelo clean, Canelo just took it fucking well. Dude, Canelo has a great chin. That's just the reality of things. And Jamel realized, like, damn, bro, I cannot move this immovable object. And he started pressuring me. And he just felt the heat. Like, that's exactly what happened. Now, it's not that Jamel didn't try. He tried. It's just that he didn't try enough. You see what I'm saying?
have you
Like,
have you seen have you seen, homie Ricky? Have you seen any fighter in recent years give up so easily at the
I,
highest moment of your
I
of
don't really
the chances?
I don't think Jamel really gave up because if you look at the last couple of rounds, he was throwing some good punches. Like he even threw like a 5 or 6 punch combination, which was like a 1-2, 1-2, and then try to finish up with like a 7 or an up jab, or it was like a long gazelle uppercut. So it's not like he didn't try. Like, bro, he tried. It's just I wouldn't say that he really gave up. I think what his strategy was he know Canelo comes off very strong, so he's gonna wear him out and tire him out. At least that's what his game plan was, and come out strong late. But guess what? That's the problem.
Hey,
Canelo
can I?
never figured out.
Hey, the
Canelo
homie Ricky, do
killed
throne
Latinos. He looked like he was on drugs, my friend.
when they do CompuBox, when they do CompuBox, do they count all punches thrown or just
Absolutely.
like okay? So theoretically, Charlo could have thrown more just in the air to keep Canelo at bay.
Yeah.
Because I really don't remember having seen him land that much. Not to the
No,
body
no.
ever.
I don't think he landed much, but I know
He
that
just threw him like, get away from me. He was swatting at flies, like, get away from me. Oh, here's a fly, get away from me. He was throwing his arms. He was stretching his arms, but he was not throwing with conviction, homie Ricky. Is what I'm trying to tell you. Now, let's not make this about Charlo. Let's make this about Tim Sue.
hold on. Let
Tim
me
Sue.
go on to David. He goes, "Hey, did Steven Jackson, the basketball player, choose Charlo to win?" Question mark. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I think he chose Charlo to win, man. I mean, he's gonna side with his people. He's gonna side with his people. It is what it is. I don't think
I
Steven
don't
Jackson went to
whoa.
Canelo. He
Yeah.
went to Carlos's home, and they were eating pancakes. So yeah, no, for sure. He was gonna choose his boy, but it is what it is. I don't really hold Steven Jackson, like, his opinion with so much weight. I mean, what does he know about boxing? But what were we saying, Speed?
Yeah. No, I was just saying, oh, well, let's just take a moment right here to wish a good even fall to our few listeners. We have Mr. David V, who says, oh, yes, well, you just read that out. We have Mr. Adam Hurley. He says, hey, guys, and hey to you too, Mr. Hurley. Always a pleasure. We miss our dedicated listeners. We always try to be considerate of what we say or the topics that we address it to make sure that you're not just wasting your time listening to two dithering idiots talk about boxing in a very dismissive or uninformed way. So thank you very much for always hopping on here. I'm not a fan of Steven Jackson, he says. Oh man. Well, you know what? He's definitely capping for his boy. Um, he is definitely very close with Charlo. If not mistaken, both Charlos. I remember one day they had some session where they went shopping for clothing or something like that, and I guess you know they considered Jermel Charlo one of the best dressed boxers in the sport currently. He came out looking fly. You know, if you like that hip hop, you know, kind of look. I'm a little too old for that. I respect it. I could see the coolness in it. I could see the art behind the swagger and the look. And we do know that Jamel Charlo is a very handsome looking man. And he's a brave one too. So there's a lot to to like about the guy. So if he's just gonna value his body enough to want to compliment it with the fly gear, go for it. But I did find it funny that
Look, man,
we
I don't want to cut you off, but what the hell are you talking about, man? Go back to Tim Su, man. I'm trying
no,
to
I'm
chill.
just saying that Steven
Right?
Jackson. Yeah, sometimes I go on these long diatribes. Non-story. What I'm trying to say is that Steven Jackson is definitely homies with Jermel Charlo. And he says, and David V says friends with perks. Oh
Yeah, man.
goodness.
All I'm gonna say is like, it is what it is when it comes down to that situation. Regardless,
Yeah.
I think Brian Mendoza with Tim Su is gonna be a very good fight. I got Tim winning,
Yes.
but when he was looking for that quote unquote Mexican war with Carlos Ocampo, I think he's gonna get somewhat of a good fight with Brian Mendoza because Ismael Salas, he knows no other way. He has good game plans, but Ismael Salas, he's a mean trainer, man. He's not nice. He's not there to give you and make you look pretty and give you praise and flowers. No, he's there to fucking let you know that you're gonna win this fight with will, with guts, with glory, and with punishment. Because man, at least
Hmm.
the times that I've seen him work that corner with Yordenis Ugas, I know Yordenis has a lot of pride, right, for the motherland, for himself, for Cuba. But bro, you gotta when your eye is shut like that, you gotta protect your fucking fighter. And you know Yordenis, like man, like I don't know, and the fact that Ismail Salas don't stop those fights with Ugas, I'm like, bro, you're fucking essentially killing this man's fucking face. If we talk about criticism,
Hmm.
going off topic a little bit, but Gabe Flores and his father, when they didn't stop certain fights, when his son is getting beat the fuck up, I don't understand how they don't give Ismail Salas
Hmm.
that same criticism when your Dennis Ugas' eye in the Spence and the fucking Mario Barrios fights are completely like your fighter's not gonna win, bro. And he's just allowing his fighter to get jabbed or popped with uppercuts, and you see the not the hematoma, but the swelling, drizzle with blood, and oh man, the dude screaming in the ring like backpedaling and just trying to throw one punch. The
Yeah.
fucking ref won't stop the fight. Like, bro, you got to take it
Yeah.
into your hands. It's not just a teacher, but knowing that you have the responsibility of another man's soul, heart, to stop. You have a fucking responsibility, bro, to save this dude
Yeah.
from
But
himself. And Ismael
true.
Salas doesn't do that. He's not gonna do it with Brian Mendoza. So that fight that Tim was looking for with Carlos Ocampo, he's gonna get it with Brian. It's gonna be good,
Yeah.
man. At
So
least
I
I
think
hope.
let me just see if I can try to explain it in a way that would make it sensible to be more critical of Gabriel Flores Senior than Ismael Salas, right? Okay, so Gabriel Flores Senior is the trainer of his own son Gabriel Flores Jr. from Stockton, California, and Ismael Salas is a fellow Cuban, it's just like Jordan Sugas. Now, both of them are being completely washed and destroyed. Both of them are taking a lot of physical uh, destruction. Um, but when you must understand, right? Because I've worked along with my son. I I he's a boxer, so I'm always helping coach him. I'm always working on things with him, or giving him tips, or at least sending him little videos to say, "Hey, work on this on your spare time." When I can't be there to observe you, but when you, as a father, are involved in the actual training of your son, of course you could give it 100%, right? Because that's your son, that's your flesh and bone progeny. Now, when your son is taking a beating, you must understand that it's gonna hurt the father to watch the son take a beating. And the one pressure that father trainers have is that no one really trusts them because there's too much emotional connection, right? So when we start seeing that they're getting beat up or whatnot, it's going to be the natural tendency of the forebear to protect his progeny. So he's going to try to spare his own son from harm. So he's what people would expect him to do is to throw in the towel, right? So a lot of people don't like father trainers because they always think that the father will be quick to throw in the towel. I mean, if I was a promoter, I'd be like, "Are you sure you want to see your? Can I trust you to have your son come in here and give it 100%, knowing that you're always going to be there to protect them, right? Because the isolation, the distance between a non-relative trainer to his fighter is a good one because, yeah, guess what? You're not taking punches. It's not hurting you because you're not the fighter, and furthermore, he's not related to you. You're just there to train him. And the one thing that those trainers must have with their with their wards is that the ward has to be honest enough to say, "Hey, coach, it hurts. Hey, coach, I don't want to do this anymore." So I believe that Ismael Salas has the trust of Jordanis Ugas to be like, "Do you want to continue?" And Jordanis Ugas has the courage to say yes. And then no questions asked. Ismael Salas is going to be like, "Alrighty then, bro, let's go. I need you to work this, move this way, throw that." The father is going to always stay there longer to prove that he can watch his son get destroyed and not throw in the towel just because of the societal pressure to be more protective of the son. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, and that does make a lot of sense. There's never there's always that in hindsight moment, right? Like, yeah, I would have done this in this situation. I probably should have stopped it, knowing what I know now, right? But I also feel like not just the trainer, right? You have the cutman, you have the doctor, you have the ref, you have all these factors of people that can throw in or stop the fight. You see, Ugas, at least the way that I saw it, Ugas didn't really have once that eye became completely shut and he couldn't really defend that jab or that left hook that Mario Barrios was throwing. At that certain point, it's like your fighter's a one-armed fighter, like if
Hmm.
you're fighting handicapped and he only has one hand. You got to stop the
Hmm.
fight because your fighter can no longer defend himself. So that's an
Yeah.
easy tell to be like, I got to stop him. I got to stop this fight
Hmm.
because it was like the same moment with Eddie Reynoso and Oscar Valdez versus Navarrete. Oscar Valdez cannot see out of that eye. Like you have to stop it in that 10th. If you, I know you want, there's a pride to go, the whole fucking length of the fight, but you have to be honest with your fighter. Look, if this shit, if you can't block yourself, you can't defend. I gotta stop it. So
Hmm.
so basically, I only say this because Brian Mendoza, he's gonna be in a fucking world of hurt, and he's gonna fight.
Hmm.
He's gonna come to fight with Tim soon. It's gonna be a good fight. To answer your question, Adam, do I have Tim Sue or Mendoza? I got Tim Sue, man. I got Tim Sue by KO. I think he'll get it like around the seventh round. It could come sooner, but there's Mendoza's pretty crafty. He's got good
Yeah.
legs where he has little good like lateral movements. He knows how to survive. And also it just comes down to how strong Tim Sue comes out. Like, does he want to engage in a war or does he want to be tactical in his approach and kind of carry it and then get the knockout late. It just kind of really depends, the anger or the point that Tim Tszyu is trying to make right across the pond, so Jermell Charlo can hear it. But yeah, I got Tim Tszyu by KO. The only way Brian Mendoza wins is by KO as well. He's not going to win a decision in Australia unless he pitches a dominant performance like, Devin Haney did with George Kambosos, which I don't think Brian Mendoza has that skill to pitch a 12-0 shutout. So, I mean, it's going to be a knockout by either fighters. But yeah, I would favor Tim Tszyu. I don't know how great Tim Tszyu's chin is. Haven't really seen it get touched too much. So it would behoove Brian Mendoza to just, blow his wad early in fucking 5 rounds, and he's able to touch and crack Tim Tszyu, throw some body shots. He might have a good success that way because he sure ain't gonna win a decision. So as long as Brian Mendoza has that, biasness in his brain, and goes in there with that certain intentions, I think it's going to benefit him. But if he goes in there like, oh, I want neutral judges, one American, one from the UK, one from France, then I'm just like, bro, you're just kind of suiting yourself up for failure because that's not going to happen. But yeah, I got Tim by KO. I like Tim Tszyu's skills. I feel like he's always learning and always improving. And yeah, man, I think Australia right now has a good little wave of fighters coming up.
I'm so happy for that, homie Ricky. That Liam Parro. I think Liam Parro has another brother with the same last name. We have Sparks. We have so many good opportunities to see Australia become a player, a mover and a shaker in the sport of boxing. And I just love to know more about cultures. I just love to see how other societies celebrate the sport of boxing. And going back to that same thing that you and I were arguing about yesterday about the zone. You told me I was trying to defend the reason why I'm a big fan of the zone, and you were trying to sort of question it. One of the things that I love the most is being introduced to different fan bases, how they comport themselves, the energy, whether they show respect to their foes. Are they jerks about it? Like I love to see that, right? Because it makes it so that we know we're sometimes different, but sometimes so the same, right? But yeah, no, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I believe you're right. Brian Mendoza has a hell of a task before him. He's gonna have to look at, I don't know where they're fighting, but I know that Tim Tszyu has had a gala events, like where they pack an arena, a stadium, like a rugby stadium, and they put out the tablecloths, and people are whining and dining, fancy meals, rich folks right there at the field, stone's throw away from the ring, and then everybody else sitting and packing up the stands. It's an incredible experience. I know that they love Tim Tszyu. I know that it's an event. I'm glad that those people have something to celebrate. But here's the other thing about Brian Mendoza. Yes, he's going up against a whole country, but the fact of the matter is, and we know this from the experience with Tony Harrison, Australians could fall in love with Americans. They respected and really appreciated Tony Harrison going over there and bringing that African American culture, that Detroit slang, that coolness about him. And he became like a cause celeb. They were following him and asking him all these questions, and he was enjoying the limelight. That's refreshing, because a lot of the time people go over there and they pressure the opponent and make him feel out of place. The Australians were very respectful and very curious about knowing more about Tony Harrison. So Brian Mendoza actually addressed it. He says, listen, I'm going to Australia to beat their fighter and to become someone they're gonna be fans of. I think he has the great. I think he has the great mentality. I think he's going over there to really make himself a name, and not necessarily a bad guy. So I love that. And I think the Australians, the Aussies, will be very courteous of them. Now, let me ask you something, homie Ricky, because I haven't really seen much promotion for this. But is there anything going on that's promoting this fight? Like, have we seen any, like press conferences or anything like that recently about those guys? Because I haven't seen nothing.
Look, man, dude, there's amazing promotion going on in Australia. Like in
Really?
Sydney, they had
Huh?
fighting jets, and they were like making with like I'm not too sure with the smoke, and they were like announcing Tim Tszyu versus Mendoza.
Wow.
For fuck, it was amazing, bro. I was like, get the fuck out of here. You were talking about like the red carpets being rolled out on camera. You guys gotta check it out. It's all over Tim Tszyu's
Wow.
Instagram. The fighter jets were just putting on an amazing display of just promotion for this fight, bro. They do it big out there when it comes down to Tim Tszyu. I'm telling you, bro, this dude, it's like, you know,
Can I be honest with you, the homie Ricky?
I
When
just
I see that,
I have no idea. I don't know. The Fight Hype, Fight Hub, they're not covering it. I don't know. I haven't seen any promotion aspect of it either, man.
can I can I be honest with you? Now that you mentioned the kind of attention that fight has been bringing Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza, uh, I am almost jealous, right? Because
I was just joking. I don't know what kind of promotion they've
oh,
had.
you're lying.
Yeah, I'm lying, man. What are you talking
You
about?
jerk. Oh man, next time I see you in person, bro, I might just punch you for that one.
Hey, why
I
were they
thought that
doing
was true.
it and like promote it, dude? What's going on here? But no, man.
No, okay. No, I was just gonna say
I
that.
don't know what they've been doing. They probably have like in one of those big buildings, they probably have like a Nike endorsement, like, hey, Tim Tszyu fighting Mendoza, this, like how they do in Las Vegas. Um,
Uh,
Adam Hurley says, do you guys have any interest in a Tommy Fury versus KSI fight this Saturday?
I
Um,
do.
I don't
I do.
me personally, I don't have any interest to it. I hope Tommy wins by knockout, but like I just hope he
Oh
wins
goodness.
because like
Look.
I just don't like KSI, man. I just like fuck.
Oh my God, man. So
Like I don't know nothing about KSI, but I don't like his fighting style. He throws sloppy Deontay Wilder right hands behind the head, and he
yeah.
gets away with a bunch of nasty like dude. His last fight, he finished the dude by elbow, and they counted it as a KO. I just hope that Tommy Fury fucks him up, but
Yeah. But you know what?
yeah,
It's
I don't
they.
know.
The fact of the matter, homie Ricky, is that look, there's two ways to look at that, right? One, the third man in the squared ring is gonna be like, okay, these guys ain't real fighters, thus they're gonna have sloppy punching, right? Or secondly, they could be like, yo, you want to be a real fighter? Guess what? You're gonna play by real rules. You got to start correcting the way you punch, right? I have watched a lot of these misfit fights. I'm a fan, Mr. Hurley. I don't know if that all of a sudden is gonna discredit me in your eyes, but sometimes I just like to watch boxing for the frivolity of it, just for the hilarious side of it, the ridiculous. They ain't nothing wrong with just having fun. And now you gotta understand one thing, Mr. Hurley.
Do not make fun of my sport.
No. Just for the fun, because look, you guys gotta understand, Mr. Hurley. I have children, and my youngest, he just turned 10 last Thursday. Uh, there's nothing funner than watching guys windmill punches. Like they have bad form, so their punches look funny. Even my son understands that it's wrong. We all start laughing about it, but guess what? Somebody always gets knocked out. Somebody always gets a bloody nose. Somebody's face is always misshapen. Regardless of what's taking place and how they may not be technical or doesn't look beautiful in there, these are very fun fights. And the build-ups, they're hilarious. It's just another way of having fun at the sport. I always say that if I saw a mongoose and a cobra, I'd sit there and watch to see who won, because I like fighting. Now, it's expensive. If I'm not mistaken, I think this one is gonna I think it's gonna cost me like about $60. Now I don't think I'm gonna watch it because there's boxing all day from morning to the eve. So I think I'm gonna spare myself the $60. But nonetheless, I do enjoy those fights. And and I believe like the homie Ricky, Tommy Fury, uh, he had a hell of a fight with Jake Paul. Jake Paul actually did quite good against him. KSI is nowhere as good as Jake Paul. So I think he's gonna get knocked out. But until that moment comes, you just gotta keep that hope up that we see another upset. Because if that ain't an upset, if KSI does not, if KSI beats Tommy Fury, if that's not an upset, I don't know what is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think KSI has the defense to. I mean, Tommy's pretty good, man. You know, I like his skills. He did get chin checked and get dropped by what's his name, Jake Paul, but the fight wasn't really even close. Jake just showed a whole like that was he's tough. You know, he has a chin. He took a lot of punches, flush punches, and he kept going. So Jake, he's got and he's fighting some real dudes, not like KSI. KSI is fighting dudes that are like 40 pounds smaller than him. I don't know, man. I think he's a gimmick. Look, I know that you just want to watch the sport of boxing with your kids and have fun and laugh, but that's all good and dandy. I just don't like how it's on pay per view. Look, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of those fights, they're cringy, bro. It's like, you understand what I'm saying? It's like even the female fighter. I think her name is Ebony Bridges, and she has
Yeah,
like a husband or something that
yeah.
she like fights like Anthony Taylor or some bullshit. Like when
Hmm.
I go on IFL TV, and this goes with IFL TV as well. I used to love hopping up on YouTube and go to IFL TV and watch Coogan Cassius like interview Eddie Hearn, interview Kale Sauerland, Frank Warren, and have these amazing long videos and just interviews that were fantastic. It was like behind the scenes type of things. Now all of a sudden, he's hopped on this like misfit wave, and his page, his site has is horrible. Like the titles, the people he's
Hmm.
interviewing, it is just like, damn, bro. From quality, from having substance. Now it holds no weight. I don't even check on IFL TV anymore. And same thing with Misfit Boxing. It's just like I just don't like it. I don't really expect it. I do like how it brings more eyes to boxing, and people are like, oh, I want to try boxing. I want to see how it feels to get hit.
Hmm. Yep,
So
yep, yep,
I
yep,
do like
yep.
that experimental process of it, but that's as far as it goes. I don't like anything else from it. It's just very sloppy, especially when you have to pay dollars. Like it's just like I don't know, the zone. Maybe
So,
could be wrong, but if I want to see good laughter, something that has substance, I'm gonna watch a reruns of The Simpsons. I'm gonna go watch, Futurama. I'm gonna watch Family Guy, South Park. Like if I want a good laughter, that's what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's
So,
just how I look at it. But
look.
hold on, man. I before talking all this misfit boxing, because I know that you can go on and on this topic. News of the day, right? In regards to, you want to spill the beans?
I
Or do
really
you want
wanted
to leave
to.
it for another night?
I did want to. I think the topic at hand is so significant that I proposed we made it the topic du jour. Um,
Did
but
you?
when I saw the topic of the day,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know a little bit of French. I know a little bit of French. I know a little bit of Mandarin. I know a little bit of Portuguese. I know a little bit of Spanish. Actually, I'm very fluent in Spanish. I know a little bit of English. But you just have to, But not long story short, the topic that I wanted to start off with, and I was very disappointed, honest to God, I was very disappointed. I'd been sending you missives, I'd been sending you reports. I was trying to bring your attention, draw your attention to this, because I really do think this is a very important game changing news in the sport of boxing in general. And when I saw the thumbnail, you said, "Hey, I'm going live. You want to hop on it?" I looked at the thumbnail. I saw that you completely glossed over it. I saw that you did not even title it as the subtitle on this live, and I was so upset. I really wasn't gonna hop on the live, but then I said, you know what? Let's talk boxing. I actually thought that we should keep the boxing talk. Who's gonna win? What the matchups will look like? What do we think
Hey man,
about?
spill the beans, man. Spill the beans. What's the news of the day? Jesus.
Can we? Are we gonna talk about this tomorrow, or are we gonna do this today? Because I
No, we
think
can do it today, man. There's a Canadian, Eric Bazinian, and he's fighting Ronald Ellis tomorrow. That's what I'm going to be watching tomorrow. So spill the beans, man.
actually, so you know that the main event is female fight, right?
Wait,
It's
tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow, because that main event is taking place on ESPN Plus, guys, at 4 p.m. Pacific, which is the West Coast. So maybe like around the 7 o'clock Eastern in the East, there will be on ESPN boxing fights, and they are expected to be very good ones. Yes, the Ronald Ellis, who is, if I'm not mistaken, a former or maybe still a Canelo Alvarez fighter, sparring partner, is gonna be fighting tomorrow. And where's that taking place? Uh,
It's taking place in Quebec, Canada.
Canada. That's right. That's right. That's right. So let me just preface the following, right? Because the following is, man, I can't believe you're gonna make me do this right now. I think we were about to break news, and you decided to make this a sub something we're just gonna address in passing. But
Can you finally
Femke
spill the beans, bro?
Hermans,
Spill the beans, bro.
Femke Hermans, listen, Femke Hermans is gonna be fighting Mary Spencer on the main event of Montreal, Canada's ESPN showing for a 10-rounder vacant IBF women junior middleweight title. Eric Basinian is going to be fighting Ronald Ellis, Christopher Guerrero, Jose Lopez, 6 rounders, so forth and so on. Now you're probably like, that's spitting the beans? No, that's not spitting the beans. The thing I wanted to spill the beans about is the Instagram post. I think it's Instagram, or I don't know, X, of Amanda Serrano. Miss Amanda Serrano, uh, former undisputed fighter, six belt division champion. Uh, she ended up posting something to promote her most recent, her more up and coming fight, right? And in that, she announces that she's fighting the very first, if I'm not mistaken, the very first or one of the very first 12-round female fights in history, and they're all for 3 minutes. Now, if you guys follow women's boxing, even just you know, in passing, you'll know that women fight 10 rounds. And the other thing that's obviously glaring is how short time that those fights are. Those fights go in the blink of an eye, because if 10 round fights ain't bad enough for a championship, they're also 2 minutes long. Now, Miss Amanda Serrano is fighting another. Well, both ladies are very.
Yo, mic check real quick. I think you're cutting out, bro. Yo, Speed, mic check, bro. You got cut off, man. What's going on? The reptilians got you, huh? I knew it, bro. Fucking Alex Jones warned me about it, bro. I knew the reptilians were after you, dog.
No, no, no. No, no, no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, bro.
No.
You good over there, man?
All right. Okay, homie Ricky. I think it's gonna be easier if you just pull it out. Can you go on the screen and Google or whatever, pull up Amanda Serrano, and I think it's Instagram, and just look for her second most recent post. In essence, Mr. Amanda Serrano, a fighter that's been involved in two fight of the year contenders, almost back to back, if I'm not mistaken. First with Katie Taylor last year, and then this year against Erica Cruz. And I'm talking about fight of the year, not just women's fight of the year, if we consider the fights that taken place between both sexes. She sends up a report announcing her fight is going to be for 12 rounds, 3 minutes each. Now again, women fight championship fights 10 rounds, 2 minutes each. Now, can you retrieve that report, homie Ricky, and read it out, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now. It's just the thing is, I don't know my IG password by memory.
Uh
I
huh.
just have it saved on my phone. So, but I think I found it on Twitter,
Yeah.
Twitteragra. So let
Oh,
me
it's
see.
Twitter. Oh no, no,
Oh,
it's X,
oh,
or
what?
or
What?
it's Twix, or it's
I
Twix.
go present, share screen. Let's see this. Let's see this. All right, we are here, my friend. We are here. Eric Bartinian. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
All right, here we go. Let's see this.
okay. Hide. Bring up the one with the typing.
Yeah, this one right here. It says, "This is our time, our right,
Okay.
our choice. We are the fighters. We are boxing. Thank you to all my fellow fighters for standing with me and supporting my everyday choice." Is this the report that you wanted me to read or something?
Yes, please. Bring it up so I can read it because I think my voice just it transmits more uh, authority. As women, we
Hey,
have
fuck you,
had to
buddy.
fight inch by
Fuck
inch
you,
to.
buddy. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
he
I'm down.
states. He
You need to
states.
walk away from that one right
She states. She writes. As women, have had the fight. We have had to fight inch by inch to earn the same equity and respect freely awarded to men. In our sport, we have made progress, but there is still far to go. For too long, we have been unpromoted and undercompensated. This has finally started to change as all of us have proven that women's boxing captures the attention of sports fans and creates moments the world will never forget. And we create these moments despite how rarely we are afforded the same time and opportunity to showcase our skill as our male counterparts. That is why today we stand together with the desire and dedication to have the choice to perform on the same stage with the same rules as men in professional boxing. We have earned the choice of 3 minute rounds with 12 rounds for championship fights to demonstrate our skill and greatness. We have earned the choice to build a more equal future for fighters everywhere. We hope boxing stakeholders support us just as we have supported them throughout our careers. This is our time, our right, and our choice. We are boxing. Now, when I read this, I was so inspired because I said, finally, we can see these women get their ass beat, right? Finally, we can see the bloody noses. Finally, we can see the protruding eyeballs. Finally, we can see the damage, the harm that comes about from enduring like Amanda's. We men do this all the time. And because of our patrimony, patriotic society, which is run by men, and I am a man, and I don't want to change that. Because of that, as a man that has been raised and educated to defend that which is more special and precious to us, which is our women and children, I am a defender naturally. So I understand that we should take that some of us want to protect our women and treat them with kid gloves. But here's the thing though, as a fan of the sport of boxing, I have a lot of the time been so frustrated at some of these women fights because they're not fighting as hard as the men, because they can't fight as hard as the men,
Wow.
because those fights are wait, 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 because these women, the women are taking less rounds of damage for less time for every round that they fight. So therefore, they're barely getting warmed up, and they're not able to learn on the fly or take some damage or last a little longer. They take breaks in between, and there's been a lack of knockouts, a lack of harm in a lot of these fights. They're very, since they're only 10 rounds, a lot of them end up in draws, because sometimes you just need a couple more rounds to tire out an opponent so that one of these girls takes the lead, a more definitive win. So when I read this, I was so proud of these women that they decided that they're going to do this to entertain the fans. See, this is not about protection of women. This is about the proposal to provide us more violence. And I'm completely in favor of women being allowed the opportunity to beat each other up, right? Now, when you have women,
You're a weird
eh,
guy
eh,
now.
well, I want you to look at the next picture. I want you to look at the roster. Look at the faces there. Look who is calling for this. This is not Amanda Serrano. This is all the champions. These are all the women. These are all the ones that are making moves and shaking the earth of female boxing. All of those faces right there that you saw in the next image, all of those are in agreement. A lot of those names from Canada, France, the United States, the island of Puerto Rico, Mexico, the UK, all of them are Australia. I'm looking at them right there. They're saying, yes, I want to hurt her. Yes, don't treat me like a princess because I'm a warrior. I'm here to kick ass. And I have no problem with that. You know why? Because these women ain't mine. These women ain't my daughters. They're not my wife. I can protect my wife if I want. I can protect my daughter if she'll let me. But these people are strangers that want to provide me violence and blood, and I'm all for it. Now, in my personal life, I tell my daughter, because she's also, learning how to punch, and I'm trying to get her uncle to trainer, but and she's not backing down from that opportunity either. But what I'm trying to say is, listen, if one day, if my daughter says, look, Pa, I know you're taking care of me, I know you want me to learn boxing for self-defense, but now I want to do it as a sport, or I want to do this professionally or whatnot, and I want to subjugate myself to violence and harm and subjugate my opponent to the same harm and violence, let me do it. And I'll say, I love you. I wish you weren't like this, because I know how dangerous the sport is. But guess what? I respect you ever more. All those champions right there, the homie Ricky, they want to destroy themselves for you and I. What do you think about that, homie Ricky?
So that was an amazing diatribe. It's
A rat. I would call it a rat.
but honestly, man, I don't really see it the way you see it.
Adam Early
I don't
wants
really
more
see it.
violence. Yeah.
I don't really. Yeah, I know that's hilarious. I don't see it that way, man. I look at it like the only reason why women are doing this is not because they want to bash their heads in much more. No, is they want equality. They don't want to be known as women boxing. They want a headline as simply boxing. They don't want to they don't want to look inferior to men that they can do two more rounds and one more minute every round. You see what I'm saying? They want 3 minute rounds, not 2 minutes. They're tough enough. They're tough that they can do 3 minute rounds, not
Mm-hmm.
10 3 minute rounds. No, we can do 12 3 minute
Mm-hmm.
rounds. They want,
Mm-hmm.
and because we can do the same shit that men can do, bro, is it gonna rain again? Are you serious? Um, uh, 12 championship rounds, right? And 3 minutes. They
Mhm.
want equal pay. This is about
Mhm.
equality
Yes,
because
sir.
that's one of the things that they're talking about.
Yep.
And because we're going to be fighting for longer duration of the rounds, for much more rounds, all right? We want the same amount of pay and respect that men get. So you
Yep.
did talk about like being a picture. Well, I forgot what like $10 word you used. Women do want to be considered tough too. Yeah, I agree. I would say, as of right now, 10-minute rounds. I don't mind the 10 rounds for a championship fight, but what I do mind is the 2 minutes. 2 minutes is just not enough. And what I mean by not enough is it's not enough. There's that saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And
Mhm.
2 minute rounds is amateurish, right?
Mhm.
That's what happens in the
Yep.
amateur games. It's 2 minute rounds, sometimes 3 minutes if these guys are open fighters. Um, I don't fatigue. I need to see these women get tired. And that's where the knockouts come. That's where the mistakes happen when you're digging deep into the rounds. When Alicia Bumgarner is headhunting body and head, 2 minute rounds, ding, 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 a little 30-minute seconds of action. The rounds, it feels like it's fucking over because in the beginning you're establishing position, you're throwing these little up jabs, you're feinting, and then you go on a little flurry of punches, and then next thing you know, the round's over, and then
Mhm.
you know, a minute of rest gets you back to your senses, and then a 2 other minutes happen. Like it's fleeting. Now
Yep.
with 3 minutes, now I can see these women endure the pain, the rigors of that extra minute. Because look, these women are fucking sparring 3 minute rounds. But when they fight, now we're all of a sudden without headgear, they're not tough enough, and we have to pamper it to them and just be like, "Oh, it's 2 minutes, honey." No, I
Yeah.
like you.
Yeah.
In fact, this is long overdue. If we look at
Mhm.
across a different sport, MMA and UFC, if I'm not mistaken, women do 5 minute, five championship rounds, the same
Mhm.
as the men. Unless
Mhm.
maybe I'm fucking wrong. Maybe it's 3 minutes or 4 minutes. I don't fucking know. But at least from what I've seen, they're 5 minute, 5 minute rounds.
Yep. No,
So
they are. They are. They're five
so
five.
I don't understand. I think Mauricio Suleiman had
Whoa,
a
whoa, whoa, whoa,
response
whoa,
to that
whoa,
saying,
whoa, 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 whoa. Don't go there because we have to build that up. Uh, so, so look, before we jump onto, Mr. Mauricio Suleiman's angle and his whole involvement in this, I want to make sure that we understand how I wouldn't even call it Machiavellian, but it is really, it's almost realpolitik. The 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 moves that these women fighters made, right? You hit it on the nose, the homie Ricky. Uh, this is all about equality, and what comes with equality, for the most part, equal pay. Now, Amanda Serrano and all these other fighters have asked for more money. Most famously, the one that talks the most about it is really Clarissa Shields. She's always talking about how she's underpaid. She's always bugging about money. She says that the men get paid way more. Whoop de woo, blah blah blah. But then you go and watch one of her fights, and then the seats are sparsely set upon. Uh, you got 3,000 people in a 10,000 person arena, right? You don't get paid if you don't sit butts on the table, on the chairs, right? That's how you get paid. You provide a product that is in demand, people pay the money, and you get your cut from you. That's how it happens. You don't just say, I'm the greatest woman in the world. Uh, I demand to get paid $10 million. I demand to get paid like Manny Pacquiao because you're fighting 10 2 minute rounds and you're not knocking out anybody. The fight goes by too quickly because the fight is not exciting and nobody wants to pay for that because we're not here to play tag. We're here to see you destroy each other. She doesn't understand that, right?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. Had Amanda Serrano had an extra minute, if she
I
had
know. Let me guess what you're gonna say. Can I guess what you're gonna say?
against Katie Taylor in the fifth round,
Oh, you're not gonna let me guess.
bro, they robbed Amanda Serrano. Has she had the extra minute, bro? So I'm in favor for this. I
Yes,
my hat
yes.
and be like, give
You're
me that
right.
third minute of that fifth round, and Amanda sleeps Katie Taylor, bro.
Incredible. It would have been one of the greatest moments in boxing history.
2 minute
That
round
the woman,
just
the
doesn't satisfy the taste of blood that I need, man.
an undisputed women's fight, who was one of the fight of the year contenders, ending in a dramatic knockout of none other than the queen of boxing, Miss Katie Taylor, at the
Amanda
hands
Serrano. Queen
of
of
Amanda Serrano.
what are you talking about?
My goodness, or the vice versa, vice versa. Let's just admit it,
Only
vice
one body
versa.
count.
Now, now, let's do this right. It took the smart consideration of Miss Amanda Serrano to say, listen, why don't why don't we fill up stadiums? And then she probably looked back into her own fights and said, wait, what do you mean? We filled up stadiums twice, one in Ireland and one in New York when I
Well,
fought Katie
those
Taylor.
are arenas. Those aren't stadiums.
Well, I mean, it still
Arenas.
seat. Well, it seats 10 to 15 thou,
Ah,
right?
look, a
Look,
stadium
look,
is
but
the LA Raiders stadium. Then you
yeah,
have
okay,
the
yeah, yeah,
T-Mobile
arena,
Arena. All right,
arena.
it's
So
not
she
here.
she filled out a stadium, an arena of 10,000 seats, but at a premium price for each ticket because this was a momentous experience, right? There was an undisputed fight between two legendary and beloved fighters and beloved coaches, and they put up a hell of a fight. That fight,
Amazing fight.
incredible fight.
Best
I wish it almost, yeah, one of the greatest fights that I've seen in boxing's history. It just happened to have it just happened to be that the women had breasts and different sexual organs,
No,
right?
it
But
was the best
nonetheless,
women boxing fight. Relax there, dude.
oh
Relax.
man, I encourage anybody to watch that fight and then come to me and say, eh, eh.
It wouldn't even had cracked the top 10 in men's
All
history.
right. All right. Anyway, yeah, yeah. No, well, of course,
I can
the
go on the
men's
list of heavyweight.
homie Ricky,
It's the best women boxing fight ever to
homie
exist.
Ricky, homie
Knock it
Ricky,
off, bro.
homie Ricky. The sport of men's boxing is about 120, maybe like 150
That's
years
what I'm
old now.
saying. Be respectful. Don't try to do that shit, man.
So, all right, right, yeah, 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 I get it. So, long story short, right? Mr. Rando said, "Okay, what was taking place in that fight?" And she said, "Well, there was significance. All the belts. Okay, what else? Well, we gave it all in the line."
Hell
And she
yeah.
said, "What else could have changed the outcome of that?" Well, if the fights were longer, I know I would have stopped her, or I would have been stopped. And we drove everybody crazy with the ultimate advice that we provided. If we had fought longer, we would have become legends. And she probably saw that, and she said, the way we make money is we beat each other up harder. We fight longer. We fight harder. And that's how we're gonna fill the seats. So it just clicked on her. Let's add more rounds, and let's make each round longer. And she proposed it to her cohorts in the sport, and they said, you know what? I think you're onto something. And you know who didn't have anything to do with this? Because I want you to look at those faces right there. Clarissa Shields has nothing to do with this. The one who had the biggest mouth, going off and going all crazy about women's lib and all kinds of stuff. She didn't even sign up to it. She didn't understand herself. The way you ingratiate yourself with the fans of the sport is by knocking people out and going out there and beating each other up. Now, she's a great fighter. And I assure you, if you give her 12 3-minute rounds, she might be more dominant, more destructive. But she had nothing to do with this. Miss Amanda Serrano and all those ladies that you see right there are shakers and movers in the sport of boxing. Now, let's hop on to what you hinted at. Mauricio Suleiman, the head of the WBC. Now, do you know what that Mr. Suleiman's position is in all of this?
No, what is it?
He's not going to sanction no 12 3-minute fights for women. Now, remember this guy is like he's like he's like the I don't know what he is. Sometimes he wants to be the Martin Luther King of boxing. Sometimes he wants to be like, you know, pro politics. Other times he doesn't. He's involving himself in too many things that have nothing to do with the sport. He's actually not allowing Russian fighters to fight because Russia is in war, right? Uh, I don't know what personal men fights have to do with a nation going to war with another nation. Those are isolated events. I don't think all Russians are in favor of the fight and even of war. But even if they did, he's basically punishing a whole nation of fighters because their leaders want to go to war. That's one. And in this case, he says he's read a lot of articles that says that the physiology and the anatomy of the female form in comparison to the men does not allow them to safely fight 12 3-minute rounds. Now, I think about that and I say, a sport of violence, and you put the word safely or safety in there, it's almost like an oxymoron, right? You know that the gloves and the padding on gloves is not to protect the opponent's face, it's to protect your wrist and your knuckles. This whole sport of boxing is designed to perpetuate devastation on your opponent. This is not to provide safety. We're here for the violence. And he says that he's privy to some medical information that says women cannot safely fight 12 3-minute rounds. Now, can you research? Can you bring up his thing? I may have sent it to you, um, a screenshot. Um, and basically, I want you to read how absurd his response is, and I want you to think about how all of these women are asking for equality in the way that they present the fans excitement. And Romeo over here wants to protect Juliet and says, "No, baby, your fingernails. Worry about your fingernails. No, baby, your eyelashes. You don't want to ruin those eyelashes. No, baby, you can't fight like a man." I find it absurd. I find it patronizing. I find it false. I think he's involving himself in too many political, social movements that don't behoove him. And one of the best things that can happen to the WBC is that uh, Mauricio Suleiman can step away from it and stop coming up with these trinkets and stop trying to choose sides in war and stop trying to tell women what to do, because he's gonna be participant to the destruction of the female side of the sport.
Yeah, no, man, it's some very good points. I wouldn't say that he's gonna be, the destructor of the women's sport, but yeah, I do agree that Mauricio Suleiman needs to step away from certain things, political. I know he has a lot of power when it comes down to obviously sanctioning bodies, sanctioning fees, who he wants to represent his company and his belt. Um, but yeah, man, he has to just kind of step away and just leave it as sport. Whether a fighter takes a stance, that's the fighter's prerogative. But I don't know. I feel like Mauricio is doing a lot of things that I don't know, man. I thought Mauricio would be in favor of this movement. It's very brave and valiant of women to be wanting this, because I think Mauricio Suleiman, I'm not too sure if you addressed the point, but he goes, if you just do the research, women skull. I think he goes on about speaking about a women's skull that they're a little less dense than a man. So in terms of impact, and in terms of going back to the argument and being tough enough to get my head or my skull cracked, you did mention,
Mhm.
like Clarissa Shields didn't like sign off on this waiver, or maybe she hasn't yet. Doesn't mean she won't in the future, but yeah, man. I mean, I can see. I mean, you said it was patronizing, but I can also see Suleiman wanting a responsibility, uh, uh, um, of a health factor on women, and be like, nah, man, you guys are supposed to be, a little more innocent. Yes, you are female warriors, but yeah, I get that point. I can see where he's coming from, but yeah, man, if this is what the women want, hey, let the women get what they asking for. So
Mhm.
I'm in favor from every perspective. If like, let's say Amanda Serrano and all these other girls like didn't and all these other women didn't sign off on the waiver, then I'll be like, okay, they don't want to fight as like a man, so it is what it is. But again, you were talking about equal pay,
Mhm.
right? And if they, but here's the thing: just because you fight 12 rounds, 3 minutes a pop, doesn't necessarily mean you're still gonna fill more seats because of that simple rule change.
Mhm.
You still got to go about like promoting that situation. And there's a lot of pretty women in women's boxing, but I just feel like they haven't gravitated towards the masses like MMA has. You see some of these pictures from like Thug Rose, right? Rose, I forgot what her last name is, and their faces are destroyed, bro. Like
Yeah.
the inflammation, the cuts, the bruises, the hematomas. Like, wow. And they headline and sell out and land on pay-per-view. And that's UFC. So it's not just, oh, we fight like men, we fight the length and duration of it. No, man. They have to go out there and promote much better. This is not just a women issue. This is simply a boxing issue. But yeah, man, if the women, ask and you shall receive. If I don't see why Mauricio would have to hinder or try to block these women from, getting knockouts. Because if you are a knockout artist, like you talked about Clarissa Shields, has
Mhm.
how she hasn't really, she hasn't signed in or co-signed this situation or this movement, maybe because she wanted to be the front of it, not Amanda Serrano. But let's just say Clarissa, like you said, has she had another minute, you know, um, and 12 rounds to do so. I don't know how many knockouts she has on her resume. Let's say she has like 17 wins by like 4 by KO. Has she had 2 more rounds? Has she had an additional minute per round?
Wow.
She might be 17-0 with 16 KOs. And
Yeah.
that resume and that record of having, let's say, a Deontay Wilder, a 90% KO ratio, that's going to sell. That's going to put butts on seats.
Yep.
Gonna get
Yep.
the moniker of her being a boring fighter to being, oh no, she's a knockout artist.
Mhm.
So maybe, yeah, in return, yeah, that's gonna amount to equal pay of men. And in terms of the talent pool, there's less competition in terms of women. So Amanda Serrano could fight, let's say, like an Erica Cruz and knock out Erica Cruz because Cruz is gonna get tired much more. Even though I think she gave Amanda Serrano a good ass fight. Yeah, man, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Hopefully, Mauricio steps the fuck away and just be like, "Hey, man."
So in some sense, I think he's. I
Look what
Yeah.
Adam said. He goes,
Yeah. I
"As
know.
long as no one beats up Serrano,
My
I can."
Serrano. My Serrano, my baby. Yeah, no, I get him as early. Yeah,
uh,
she's
let's go.
um I feel the same way, Mr. Hurley, about Katie Taylor. She's my favorite. No. Oh God, here we go. He's always doing that to piss me off, making fun of Miss Katie Taylor's uh, occasionally cracking Irish voice and accent. But to delve a bit more into Mauricio Suleiman's comment, and you may look at the visage of Mr. Mauricio Suleiman right there as my screen image. That right there is Mauricio Suleiman, um, a man of Mexican by with Turkish or Lebanese roots. I get it, traditional cultures and whatnot, but this is his exact response when he wrote today about the WBC uh, promoting the dignity of women with boxing. I'm gonna skip through a lot of the stuff because he hashes through, how he makes fighters that are fighting for the WBC, especially for titles, how he asks them to respectfully wear pink gloves as a sign of solidarity with uh, women's cancer, breast cancer, or whatnot. He goes on and commends women, the Hall of Fame of women. He mentions the so-called Jill Diamond. He goes on to talk a lot of the stuff of the history about how he's lamenting the most recent dispute between the people from Palestine and Israel, and he goes on to say that he's in complete disagreement with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But after we go through all of that, he goes on and states the following. The WBC has organized 3 world conventions aimed mainly at reviewing every medical and scientific information for the adequate protection of women in the ring. We have suffered and we have endured attacks of discrimination and sexism. The reality is very simple. Women have significant differences with men, and for this reason, the rules must be different for their protection. All boxers, regardless of whether they are men or women, are willing to fight under any conditions imposed upon them. They are warriors, they are relentless, and they would do anything to excel and make a living. With that being said, he goes on and says the boxer needs the WBC to protect them and establish rules to minimize the risks before, during, and after fights. Now, we're gonna get to the nitty gritty of what he says about Miss Amanda Serrano. Now, I want you to pay attention attentively and tell me if you agree with what he's saying. First, he's getting involved in world politics, stuff that has nothing to do with Mexico, stuff has nothing to do with boxing. He's trying to be on the right side of history. We don't know what the right side of history is. Maybe you guys do. I don't, because I don't follow other stuff besides boxing. I don't have enough time to worry about nations going to war that don't necessarily affect me. Now, you can say, yeah, they do affect you because I heard this or America's going to be involved. I get it, guys. Um, I'm not choosing sides. I'm just saying I'm not that one guy that follows these things. I follow boxing and I like to live life peaceably and with respect to my fellow being. So, by nature, I am against war, but I'm not politically informed. So he goes on and says the following. He says, Amanda Serrano, one of the best fighters in history, will enter the ring this month as she seeks to become the leader of a movement since she will fight for 12 rounds and the duration of these will be 3 minutes. This is against the structure that has functioned flawlessly throughout the history of women's boxing. Here we go. The Muhammad Ali Act is a federal law and establishes that women's fights must be a maximum of 10 rounds, and the duration of rounds is 2 minutes. The WBC will not be involved in this event in any form of or manner. What is sought? Equality. For the love of God, this is not about equality. Just look at a woman's skeletal frame and compare it with that of a man to see the differences in bone density. Just study the science that details the physiological and metabolic differences in relation to the percentage of muscle mass that the genes throughout the double X female and XY male chromosomes. Distinct differences are a fact of life. What I found very interesting is that he mentioned the Muhammad Ali Act being a federal law that establishes that women fights must be a maximum of 10 rounds and the duration is rounds of 2 minutes. Now, I did not know that about the Muhammad Ali Act. Did you, homie Ricky?
No, no, I know that he brought it up, but I wasn't really I didn't know.
Do you let me ask you. Right now, the federal government, at least here in the United States of America, has been promoting a forced. To me, it seems forced. Uh, a forced type of equality and respect for human rights and dignity. Right. Uh, the gay, our homosexual listeners, our homosexual fellow beings, citizens, uh, they have been granted rights. Uh, we see that in television and movies and literature. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Women's rights have been heavily promoted. We have politicians uh, making the rounds every day, talking about what goes on in the world, giving their opinions. That's okay. I have no problem with that. Um, a lot of the time, it does seem inorganic. Like these things are coming on too quickly. They're being promoted by the media, from what I hear, right? Because I really don't deal with that much. But as a person that's not following the news and doesn't really get involved in things like that, I see the changes and I don't see them gradually because all of a sudden they just happen so quickly. And maybe it's not that it's taking it happening so quickly. It's just that I'm so ignorant about these things. Now, one thing that he is completely against is women being treated fairly. Now, I believe that what will happen is this: the Muhammad Ali Act is going to be amended to allow women to fight 3 minute 12 round fights. Why? Because that in and of itself is a federal law that is basically justifying the injustice and unequal treatment of women. I don't think this guy realized what he was saying right there when he mentioned the Muhammad Ali Act. I think he let the cat out of the bag. I think the women are going to run with that. I think they're likely going to make a federal case out of it and they're going to win because right now, social movement and social change is what's hot, right? So, everything else that he talked about, X's and Y's and chromosomes and scientific DNA, whatever. Listen, guy, if these women are fighting women, they have the same physiology, they have the same skeletal frame. They're going to harm each other the same as men do because they themselves are equal. Like we men are equal. Maybe we don't look the same, but we have equal rights to fight each other. That's why a 6'2" Sebastian Fundora, can fight a 5'9" Brian Mendoza because a physiological and the skeletal frame allows for us to meet up at a weight class and fight. Guess what? The women's bodies are similar. They're not fighting men. They're not fighting transgender. We're not saying women are going to turn into men and men into women to fight. He's not saying that. Nobody's proposing that. These are women equally with the same DNA and skeletal material and composition fighting each other. I think it sounds absurd. I think it's ridiculous. I think Mauricio Suleiman is out of touch. I think he's so wrong in everything that he's been doing recently. And I hope, and I'm not too sure how you get rid of that guy, but I know his father was the head of the WBC, and I know that he did great under that organization. And I don't know what his father would think about his son, the way that he's moving the sanctioning body. The homie Ricky, I think this is the bad side of history that the WBC is being directed in under the management of Mauricio Suleiman.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I would agree, man.
Ridiculous. Now, to make it even more ridiculous, guys, right? I'm gonna check this out. December 29th, 2022, reporter Joseph Zucker with a Z, he writes the following report. WBC announces plan for transgender boxing division in 2023. The World Boxing Council is planning to launch a new transgender division in 2023. We are creating a set of rules and structures so that transgender boxing can take place as they fully deserve to if they want to box, WBC Mauricio Suleiman said to Garrett A. Davies of The Telegraph. Suleiman asserted trans fighters will remain limited in whom they can fight, though. Women to men or men to women transgender change will never be allowed to fight a different gender by birth. I agree with that. I agree with that. Guys, I hope I don't offend anybody here. Okay. I'm a loving human being. I promise you that I'm a loving human being. I promise you that I am not sexist. I promise you that I am not homophobic. I'm an equal rights type of person. A man should not fight women solely because he wears a dress. A woman should not fight a man solely because she wears trousers. A man that puts on a dress or identifies as female should be able to fight another man that dresses differently than a typical male or identifies as female. A female that identifies or looks like a man should be able to fight another female that identifies or looks like a man. I love that. Mauricio, you're onto something. Understand, you can continue to do the right thing, but what you're doing with the women's side of boxing is absurd. All right? I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys are in line with me. I can't believe how so out of touch and so how everywhere Mauricio Suleiman is and everything. But I just found it so incredible that all of these reports about how Mauricio Suleiman wants to impact boxing through the angling of sex and gender, it just sounds like he don't know what he wants. It's almost like he wants to be the guy who's just ahead of the curve, but he's always in back of it. That was my rant, homie Ricky.
Yeah, no, man. I agree. Like I said, man. Same thing probably with Clarissa Shields. Why probably she hasn't signed that waiver or took a picture to be on that poster of the new movement is because they wish that they brought it on themselves. You know what I'm saying? I think Mauricio Suleiman, like you said, he wants to be in the person that's always innovative, right? That's taking the right approach to certain aspects. He's an odd, strange man, bro. Weird dude. Weird dude. Um, I don't really know what else to say, but yeah, man, I think you covered it relatively well, very articulate and precise. And yeah, I agree. Well, there's pros and cons to everything. I can see where Mauricio Suleiman is coming from as well. I can see his perspective when it comes down to women boxing. I also feel like when it comes down to the women, I'm just like, yeah, bro, if your resume, you have 50 fights and 47 of them are coming out by knockout artists or by knockouts, imagine that amazing highlight tape, right? That's going to sell. That's going to make you get 10, 20, $30 million. That's going to get you a lot of endorsements. That's going to fill butts and seats.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in favor as that as well. So, like I said, I you can never please everyone, but these two things, Mauricio, what he's trying to do with the transgender thing, which is proper.
Mm-hmm.
Women boxing wanting to fight 12 championship 3-minute rounds, that's also proper.
Yeah.
And we talk about equality, that's what it is, man. So hopefully both those things come to light and it happens. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. I think I might have kind of lost in translation. What was Mauricio Suleiman saying with the Muhammad Ali Act when it came down to women? What was that all about?
So I guess the Muhammad Ali Act, which, if I'm not mistaken, was written somewhere in the 80s, because of the corruption between manager and promoter. A lot of promoters were working as managers and vice versa, and I guess there's a conflict of interest that always tends to work against the fighter himself.
Mhm.
um, Apparently there's a segment of the Muhammad Ali Act, and actually I've read part of the Muhammad Ali Act. Now, I either glossed it over, or it was too long, and I just skimmed it through it. But apparently, there's a part of the Muhammad Ali Act that states that it is a federal law establishing that women's fights must be a maximum of 10 rounds, and the duration of rounds only 2 minutes each. Apparently, that's a federal law. Now,
Oh,
you have to ask yourself this, homie Ricky: what is the IBF going to do? What is the WBA and the WBO going to do when their fighters are trying to fight 12 3-minute rounds? Are they going to resort to bringing up the Muhammad Ali Act until they get sued for discrimination based on sex? Um, Are they going to take this to the federal court, to the Supreme Court? Will a court of appeals determine that it doesn't have to go the way to the Supreme Court because it is a recognized injustice that's so out of date with the current milieu of modern society? It's just, I don't know how far it's going to be, but if I was a woman, that's how I make my name. You're always talking about promotion, making a name of yourself. The first woman who goes into a court of law and states, I want to sue this organization, or I am so and so against US government and the Muhammad Ali Act. The world's eyes will be upon them. That person will be a shaker and a mover. That person will go in history books, like Miss Katie Taylor opening up the Olympics for female boxing. Uh, Miss Shields becoming undisputed. All of those things. That's how I promote myself. Win or lose, your name's in the history books for doing the right thing. I'm sorry, guys. I find I know that I must sound impassioned about this. I'm just thinking, as a fan of the sport, I'm just thinking I want these women to not beg for my money. I don't find it fair that I should pay whether Miss Shields or Mr. Manda Serrano wants because they think we're being unfair. I'm just thinking, as a consumer, I can't pay for the kind of product that you're providing me because it's less intense and less deserving of my money, because the men, by nature and by federal law, are allowed to fight harder than you. That's all I'm trying to say. But if you want to bash your heads in, I assure you, you provide that excitement, I'm going to pay you. But I can't give out handouts. The economy's too tough. I have to feed my family, but I would gladly give you your recompense if you provide me the action. And I apologize to the lady boxers out there. I know that you're short shrifted at the moment because federal law states that you cannot make a proper living, and it's limiting your reward, your financial reward for the same sport that men partake in, because the law states that you cannot fight for longer and harder than men. You ladies should stand up for yourself and get our money the old fashioned way, which is bashing your brains in for our entertainment. And God bless you for what you've done so far. But Miss Amanda Serrano is in the right path. And if you are a female fighter listening to this and you want equal rights and respect and recompense, follow the lead of that lady.
I would say that I was in agreement with pretty much everything you said except the last part. Look, man, I don't mind paying for women boxing as it is right now. I do find it to be competitive and entertaining, especially when you have fights like Amanda Serrano, versus Erica Cruz, Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor, at that, Savannah Marshall versus Clarissa Shields, hell, even Christina Hammer versus Clarissa Shields. I thought from a stylistic standpoint that was very fun. It has a boxing as it is right now. I would be able to pay for it, pay per view, and whatever the case may be. If it's like $20, $15 a pop, I also don't mind how it is right now when they're co-main events or they're headliners. It's kind of like when Triple G was fighting whoever he was fighting, and then on the co-main event that always had Chocolatito. You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden we're gonna go down to, we don't really care too much about the 108, 112 pounders. No, man. At the end of the day, it's like you can still score knockouts. It's just sometimes what I've seen when it comes down to women fighting, like Cecilia Brækhus versus Terry Harper, I just don't see the substance. I don't see the feints. I don't see the trap setting. I don't see proper punch technique. On contrary, look at Alicia Baumgartner. Look what she was able to do to Terry Harper. Look what Alicia Baumgartner was able to do to Christina Linartu in her last fight, even though she popped dirty afterwards. But when you know how to throw proper punches, like Adam Hurley says, Layla Ali had a record of 24-0 with 21 KOs. Amanda Serrano has like 50-something wins with like 20-something KOs, if I'm not mistaken, and more, like 35 or some shit like that. So because they know how to throw proper punches, they use proper technique. They're not slapping. You see, Clarissa Shields, even though as fast as she is, she tends to sometimes slap. And her punches are sometimes telegraphed. And she's just throwing wildly that the women kind of disengage. But sometimes if she would refine her technique, some of those punches rock the shit out of Maricela Cornejo. So I just feel like you got to refine your technique when it comes down to women. Same thing with Sky Nicholson. She knows how to box. She has impeccable footwork. She moves a lot like Billy Joe Saunders. But hell, even Billy Joe Saunders couldn't get knockouts. You know why? Same thing with Sky Nicholson. You don't sit on your punches. You don't take one to give one. So it's not because it's 12 minutes, 12 rounds versus 10. It's not because it's 2 versus 3. Yes, that does help. Fatigue and then proper technique when the other person is fatigued, you're going to knock them out. Of course, that helps out a lot. But you can still get the knockouts. You're not hampered right now. I just feel like there's only certain fighters, certain women fighters that actually know how to throw proper punches with might, with fortitude. Look at what's the girl from East Los?
Siniesa Estrada.
Her punch technique sucks. She throws nothing but slapping punches. You're like, she's very fast. She has a good check little left hook, but she throws a lot of slaps. She does not hit and connect with her knuckles. Last Argentinian
that's true, actually.
I forgot the Argentinian chick. I thought the girl from Argentina beat her. But
that girl was tough.
Yeah, she was good, and she threw good straight punches.
Hard.
Absolutely. Her 1-2s were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And Siniesa, she throws a lot of slapping punches with a herky-jerky movement. Now, she's very athletic. She can go from orthodox to southpaw and vice versa, but it's a technique flaw. Look at Adam Hurley. Layla and Ann Wolf would have been a classic. Yeah, Ann Wolf is another chick that threw correct, hard punches with might, timed certain shots, and connected well with knuckles. A lot of these women don't throw proper punches like Alicia Baumgartner. And that's why when she throws, she knocks the block off these women and knocks them wigs out because she knows how to, quote unquote, hit like a man. Mm-hmm. And on that note, man, I got to wrap it up. It was a very good, enlightening live. Hopefully you guys got a good kick out of certain topics. And yeah, man, you want to wrap it up, Speed, and just kind of give all your finishing?
Yeah.
Not enough.
Yeah, I do. Mr. Adam Hurley writes, I wish we could get some women boxers to watch this video. And I think what he's hinting at is that I hope that he thinks that there is value in what I've stated, and that women will probably take something from this so that they could understand how the men, and I don't even think it's a man's mentality. I think it's just a boxing fan's mentality, how it works, so that women could be inspired to take those risks. And I'm not even saying women don't want to take those risks, because as we saw, there's all these women that are willing to step it up because they understand. But I think maybe Mr. Hurley found some value in what was stated in this live today. I really wanted to make this whole show about it. Um, because I really do think, as you can tell, I was very impassioned about the subject. I went on this crazy rant. I hope I sounded coherent and not like a madman. But nonetheless, I just wanted to state that this is progress. This is good for the sport. I can see nothing but sunny days from this. I do want to thank everybody who was here with us today. I'm not too sure why one of my messages to Mr. Hurley was taken down, was struck down, probably by YouTube. And I didn't say nothing besides, Mr. Hurley, chaos of women would be a nice surprise and that I would welcome. David V, Bitch Elders of Boxing, Mr. Adam Hurley, the homie Ricky, and those people that do listen, but they never type in. We know you're here. We appreciate you listening to us. We hope we're living up to your expectation of boxing commentary and enlightenment. Um, but I do just hope, homie Ricky, I just ask you for a favor. Please subtitle this video by making sure that it addresses the fact that we talked for a greater portion of this live about women's boxing and the way that the WBC is trying to, in my case, uh, halt the progress of it. I hope tomorrow we can go live. I know there's a lot of other news that we didn't address. We didn't do the news roundup. I
Man,
love.
your mic's cutting off.
Oh, okay, I'm just
Your
sorry. I
mic's
just
cutting
wanted to
off.
state. Yeah, I just wanted to
So that's
state that.
basically letting you know you can look it up.
Yeah, just wanted to state that we had more to talk about, but we'll do the news roundup tomorrow. And thank you all for hearing us out. And the homie Ricky, always a pleasure, brother. Always a pleasure. I love it when you invite me.
Yeah, sounds good, Speed. I love how you on you, man. You have a good night, man. Adam Hurley, thank you for always tuning in, brother. I appreciate it, man. And we'll see you on the next one.
Engage.